Hello, everyone. How is your Sunday night going? We hope it's going well. It is time to wind down your weekend with Bat City Comic Professionals. As always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to count down all of the great and wonderful indie and small press books out this week. It's been a wonderful week at Bat City, and we've had an awesome time with great new comic book day, and we had workshops yesterday, comic creation workshops, which is always one of our favorite experiences, and we got to mix them up just a little bit this week as a taste of some things to come with some new kids classes that we'll be having coming up soon. And then today we were a part of the shop and walk of Old Manatee, where all of our favorite friends and neighbors are all a part of, and it's been wonderful. We had a pop-up market at Vintage Vine. We had the Friendly City Flea at Maskerade. Segunda Vida had some great stuff going on, and all of the restaurants were open with some great food. And then, of course, we had all kinds of great, wonderful comic books available for you today. It was so great to meet so many new people and see everybody out and about. And a big shout out to everybody that brought school supplies this week to any of those locations. It was all about school supplies donation this week at every Old Manatee business, including the wonderful Loving Hands and Central Cafe. And so I cannot wait to see all of the great school supplies that has been donated by all of our local Bradenton family members. I saw some kinder care mats that got donated at Segunda Vida, so some kids will be able to get a nap mat coming into their classrooms, so I'm super excited about that. So thank you for everyone who participated and who helped get some kids some school supplies, and there will be more big announcements for things that Bat City is doing for schools coming up soon, because we do have our Jim Gaudet Educator Award coming for you later this month. So we're really excited about that. We're also really excited about all the comics that we're going to be talking about in just a second. And before we even get to those, we're going to have a fun little surprise. But first and foremost, we're drinking some great wine tonight. This is what is this? Quarter cut bourbon barrel aged wine. It's Cab Sav. Matt calls this the last Aldi wine that we haven't tasted yet. So I'm excited to see what it is. That is just a lot of flavor, right? Immediately on that one.
Intense.
Yeah, it's an intense flavor. That's a good way to describe that. It's like immediately hit with it.
As barrel-aged wines tend to be.
They do tend to have a high concentration of that flavor, and that's literally what it says. Like immediately is like, oh, this has rich flavors. It's from charred barrels that once aged American whiskey. Tracing the legacy of distillers, this aging method masterfully balances the essence of the Cab Sav with the unique character imbued with those prized barrels. This reward is a seamless wine with distinctive notes of vanilla, black cherry, and dried herbs. This definitely has the black cherry. I think that's that big hit at the very beginning for me, is that black cherry feeling. It does say that you should pair it with burgers, and I love any wine that claims that it goes well with a burger. So, thanks for reminding people that burgers can be classy foods too. I love that. I'm going to open up this and get the video shared, because I want to make sure that people know we are live and having fun. So I'm going to pull this up. We are going to get it going, and thank you everybody that's watching us live. If you're not watching us live, thanks for watching us later. It's always fun to see when people tune in and check it out and come in and get those books that they haven't heard of before, so we love to have people do that. Before we get into comics, we have a special surprise though, so I'm going to open this up. I am terrible at unboxings, so I just want you to know that very much in advance. And also, if you're watching this at home, please don't cringe when I use the box cutter towards me, not away from me. That is just how life goes in my brain. But so for those of you who know, we just went to San Diego Comic-Con. That was it was 3 weeks ago now, which is crazy. And at San Diego Comic-Con, we went to the Eisner Awards because we were a finalist for the Spirit of Comics Retailer Award, which is incredible. We are named one of the 6 best comic book stores in the world, and part of that comes from nominations from our incredible Bat fam like you, and then of course the rest of it goes through our judges. Well, at the Eisner Awards, we get to meet all of the creators who are also nominated who win or who are just there to hang out and support those creators. And one of them was Tom King. And Matt and I started talking to Tom King about all of the amazing work that he's done and different things. And one of the nicest things Tom King told us was everybody needs to lose an Eisner once, basically. And congratulations on that. And we started talking about our wedding and how we had Batman and Catwoman's outfits from Tom King's run when they were supposed to get married. And that brought us to a conversation about the Catwoman statue. And we mentioned that we did not have one. And so if I am correct, this should be a special gift from Mr. Tom King himself in honor of, as he says, our first Eisner loss. So we're going to open this up. Again, in terrible unboxings, you're going to see a lot of cardboard box. That's the way I do it. I'm going to pull these like box size and push them down. Oh man, I'm very excited. Like, I know what's in here and I'm still so excited. It's like Christmas when you're like, you know you're going to get the thing that you like actually asked for. It is. Oh, there it is. I don't want to knock wine over, but yes. So there it is. This is the Catwoman DC Collectibles statue of her in her wedding dress, which is the same wedding dress that I had. And I actually, which way should I go? This way?
This way, yeah, because there's only her face on this
perfect.
side.
Can you see the whole thing
there
on the side?
Go.
Okay. This was my wedding dress. It's incredible. I actually even had the same exact headband and everything. And these sold out at Diamond, and I had ordered one. We had ordered one because I had the dress, and I was so excited to get it, and we never got ours in. And so Tom was so generous to buy this for us. So thank you so very much, Tom King, for this incredible gift. I cannot thank you enough. And for just all of the encouragement and all the kind words that you gave us, but also all of the incredible words that you write. We love you so much, and thank you so much for this. And I don't know, should I open it the rest of the way? What do I do?
I mean, it's probably gonna take a lot to like get it out.
Right, it's probably like in the thing. Right. We'll post a picture of what it looks like out of the package so you can see it later on.
That's on the horizon.
What was that?
Congrats on
yes, and congrats, Tom King, on your Eisner for Batman, for Batman. Yeah, right. One bad day for the Riddler story. Yes, and it was super great. We love watching him go up there. He went up there with Mitch Gerads at one point, and Mitch Gerads is wearing a Taylor Swift Illuminati Idol shirt, which we love to see. But yes, so again, congrats on your Eisner, and thank you for supporting us in our, as you call it, first Eisner loss with this beautiful thing. I'm so excited to put this next to the picture of Matt and I at our wedding. So I'm actually going to hand that to him because I don't want to be responsible for breaking things. And then I'm going to take another drink before we get started on our comics. Again, we're drinking Quarter Cut bourbon barrel aged wine tonight. It is a Cab Sav, but it's Cab Sav that is aged in bourbon barrels. And Matt, do the barrels purposefully like pull out more of the fruit and flavor? Is that the point of bourbon barrels? What is the point of a bourbon barrel for bourbon? To
soak the bourbon into the flavor of the wine to give it a whiskey-like flavor.
And how does but when you put it in a barrel to make bourbon, because that's the whole thing, right? You should have to make bourbon in a barrel.
Yeah.
And so
the point of bourbon in a barrel is the way that bourbon is made is you make moonshine first, and then you take a barrel and you set the barrel on fire, so it chars the inside of the barrel and blackens it, and then you just add regular moonshine in a barrel, and then the barrel sits and the char and ash from the burn of the wood of the barrel seeps into the moonshine to give it the robust flavor, and it becomes whiskey as it ferments. And then that becomes like the whiskey, the bourbon, and then you get rid of that. You pour the whiskey out. And you put the wine in. And then you put the wine in, and then you ferment your wine inside the barrel that had once made whiskey. So you get all that flavor blended in it. So that's why it gets that smoky, high concentration of flavor. Right. Awesome. Absolutely. That's really cool. I would love to go. This is the kind of distillery I'd actually love to go to see them go from bourbon to wine to get that flavor, because they probably import the barrels from somebody else who makes whiskey. Probably. If I had to guess.
That would make
Probably
sense. Like, you don't, like,
barrels, 'cause
actually
you throw
do
the
that.
barrels away
Oh.
after you're
You can't
done
use
with
it
the
again?
barrels. Yeah, it's usually 1 barrel per thing of whiskey.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just assumed you just kept using the barrels, and that's why, like, over time, like, they get more flavorful.
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
one and done.
One and done, and then you destroy the barrel.
Do you recycle, like, it into something
I
else?
mean,
Like,
you usually burn it, you break it down, and make it into kindling.
oh, okay. All right.
Like
Good. I learned something new today.
There you go. And some of them are rocking, so they have a rocking chair that they used to put the barrel on, and then as it would rock the whiskey and slosh it around inside the barrel, it would ferment more and make it stronger.
All right. Okay.
And now they have rockers, mechanical rockers, to rock the barrels.
Interesting. Like a paint shaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
But real slow.
There you go.
Slow,
Yes.
yeah.
Hello, Ram just joined us. Hello, Ram. We're so excited to have you back. Yes. We are going to learn a lot of things tonight because we got a lot of new comics that you're going to learn about. Not near as, like, last week I think it was like, oh, there's 21 new number ones. Not near as much this week. But we've got some great books either way. First up tonight, we have House of Slaughter, issue 16 from Boom Studios. I guess I could have technically put this in the number ones because this is the launch of the new House of Slaughter art. If you've been reading House of Slaughter, you know, Volume 1 was done by Tate Bromble and the amazing Chris Sheehan on art. And then Volume 2 switched over to Sam Johns, and they wrote a completely unrelated story to Tate Bromble's Volume 1. And then Tate Bromble came back on Volume 3, and now we've switched back to Volume 4, and it is back to Sam Johns being in charge of the writing. Now, the whole thing is plotted out by James Tynion, but it is written out by one of the two of them. They actually just made a really funny Instagram post this weekend because they were all at FlameCon, and it was like it's a battle to the death between Tate Bromble and Sam Johns, and it was like winner gets House of Slaughter, and I thought that was just the cutest way to do it. But Sam has been really focused on more what is going on in the House of Slaughter, the interworkings between the different masks. And so, once again, jumping back into that actual people in the House of Slaughter, what's going on with the white mask, the red mask, the blue mask, and how do they work together? And we have brought in one of the characters from Tate's run, most recent run for Volume 3, and brought them into the House of Slaughter. And it's like, okay, well, now that this kid is in the House of Slaughter, how are they going to use them? What is their purpose? What did the other kids think about them? And we get this entire first issue almost is talking, it's a red mask and a blue mask talking about the different strategies of the different houses. And it's like, well, do you know why the white masks are focused on the strategies that they use, and how come they have this alabaster pool ball that they use? And they kind of start talking about the history, essentially, of how these masks started out as an alabaster mask before they became a white mask, and what that meant, and kind of the fragility of their structure. And I love when we see the different people talking about the different groups in the house, because they're all supposed to work together, but we often see that, like, the different houses have very negative opinions of each other, and how it's like, oh, well, even though we're going to work together and we're going to do all this stuff, there's way more coming up to this. And I'm just really curious because House of Slaughter keeps making reference to the things that are going on with Erica and Something is Killing the Children, but we still haven't had this is where we're going with this. And so I'm really curious to see how that connects. But I do like that in this book they keep talking about this issue. They kept talking about Askura monsters, and I was just like, I just kind of want to call all of our friends at Askura types from now on. Like, but I know they haven't read this yet, so I don't want to like ruin it. So. And
I'm sure most viewers at home have no idea. Anything you just said,
because we're starting with House of Slaughter, which is the fourth volume, which is the spin-off of Something is Killing the Children, which is 6 volumes in. If you haven't started it, you don't know. That's why we're starting there, honestly, is because there's so much that comes with that. People ask me, what is your read order? Like, do you have to read Something is Killing the Children before you read House of Slaughter? Honestly, I would say I would. I think we've determined that we would read the first 2 volumes of Something is Killing the Children before jumping to the first volume of House of Slaughter, just because Aaron Slaughter from Something is Killing the Children is such a big focal point of the first volume of House of Slaughter. So I kind of say, like, go that way. But, I mean, honestly, at this point, like, find the thing that interests you and just get that book. For me personally, like, so far, like, from House of Slaughter, Volume 2 has been, like, my ultimate favorite because we just went so, like, studious and historical, and I have a problem with that. And honestly, that's also another good thing to do, is there was the Book of Slaughter that gave you, like, the whole lore. I think that's a great one to go to, too. So if you're looking to have a new fandom that you're going to be a part of and dive deep into and not be able to get back out of until you know what is going on everywhere in this world, Something Is Killing the Children universe is honestly it. And if you're a fan of something like Stranger Things, like that eerie but not quite scary level of monsters, I think that Something Is Killing the Children is the series for people to get into. Up next, we have Kaya, issue 10, and this is from Image Comics. Kaya is one of the truest all ages books that I've seen. So many things actually label themselves all ages, and I'm like, I wouldn't actually give this to a child. This is one of those books that definitely falls into pure all ages. I've got 7-year-olds who get it, and I've got 50-year-olds who read it. But this issue had really cool paneling, and if you know me, you know that I love changing up paneling. But this is the story of a young girl and her brother, and their entire village has been destroyed. And Kaya, who was originally thought to be the savior of their village, turned out not to necessarily be that. And the story has now shifted to maybe her brother is the chosen one. And since they are the only two left, Kaya feels it's her responsibility to get him to mages that can train him in the magic that can save people like them and who can rebuild their village and their world. And on their journey over there, they have encountered a lot of different beings across the way, and all of them are kind of after her brother. And Kaya is trying her best to protect them. And at the end of the last section of the story, at the beginning of this arc, I guess I should say, Kaya has lost her brother. And he is being taken by some more evil creatures to their kingdom, where they think they're going to control him and use them for their good. And so Kaya is on her struggle to find her brother and save him at whatever cost. And he is trying to prove that he can be brave and strong like Kaya. And so he is working really hard to kind of figure out how to actually tap into this magic that he's never been able to use, but they swear he's supposed to do. And that's where we get all this cool paneling in this book, is because he has gone into his own mind and is like, this is where I can see where magic is and how maybe I can tap into it. And he's like, I just have to do it for Kaya. And the whole time Kaya's like, I just have to do this for my brother. Such a great sibling story, but also just a beautiful book, and crazy amazing. And if you are a fan of Deadly Class, this is Wes Craig, who does the art on Deadly Class, writing and drawing and doing all of these great things for this book. So check it out. And we do have volume 1s, which we're going to talk about in a little bit when we get straight paperbacks. We've got Maskerade issue 7 from Dark Horse's Secret Stash Empire. And if that name sounds familiar, it is because Dark Horse gave Kevin Smith his own imprint this year. And Kevin Smith, of course, known from Clerks and Mallrats and Comic Book Men and all of the other Jay and Silent Bob. I can't believe I almost left that one off as like...
That's Clerks.
Yeah, it is.
That's Clerks.
But like, they've had their own movies, and I know so many people who've seen Jay and Silent Bob who never saw Clerks, which is weird to me. Because it's a spin-off, like, of Clerks, like... but here we are. So Kevin Smith, who has always been a comic creator as well, has led this imprint, and he is actually a big part of this book, doing a lot of the writing, at least on the second half. But this is the story of a girl who has her own show that's called By Felicia, and so I'm not even kidding, it's so great. But what she does is she goes around and she exposes millionaires and rich people who are basically terrible, awful people. She catches them in everything from trying to solicit like children to just kind of stealing money. And over the course of the series, we have learned that she is actually a person who was taken herself by rich people who were trying to do experiments on children. And she has used those experiments as the way that she gets back at them and the things that she is doing. And so now we know that there is a specific hit list that she is coming after. And we have one more issue left to see if she's able to accomplish all of the things that she's been trying to do. But this series has been so great, and I love her character and all the struggle she goes through. But honestly, one of the things I love the most is we have never gotten an exposition dump fully in one issue of this story. It's like each story reveals a little bit, each issue reveals a little bit more of her backstory and the people connected to her backstory. And I think what that comes from, you know, that great use of that comes from writing movies and TV shows and comics all at the same time, because we do see that like kind of just play out perfectly. And in this one, the little piece of the puzzle that we got put together from her exposition changed so much of the story. And it's like, wow, you know that you have one more issue left, right? Because you just changed so much of the story, and way to like mess with all of our minds. So yeah. Also returning this week, I really said I was only going to put the returning ones in my news, and I totally didn't, but is Damn Them All. This is issue 7 from Boom Studios. This is Constantine. If it was an indie book character again, I say again because I consider Vertigo indie forever, but if you put Constantine in a female character and made it an indie book from Boom Studios, this is what you're going to get. This is the story of a woman who is basically a detective and an exorcist and a magic user, and she also wears a tan coat. But she has been working over the last few issues. At the very beginning of issue 1, we find out that her uncle has passed away, and he is the one that was training her in magic and trying to stop demons, and now she is dealing with the fact that he's dead, and she's the only one who really does that anymore. And all of the demons have come to Earth because somebody has found all of the cursed coins of Judas, and they are using them to control all the demons. And it's kind of the mobsters that are doing that, but they're also getting out and about to other rich people and other people who have like their own agenda. And so she is trying to put them all back into hell where they belong, and having to do all of the research and all of the work herself to do this. And she's teamed up with a couple of demons, as well as the person who she finds out was in love with her uncle, but didn't know her uncle had any kind of relationships like that. And so they have been all working together to put everything back. And one of the demons is currently inside of a dog, so it's kind of her and a talking dog trying to deal with all of this in the most serious way possible. Like, the humor is very dry British humor mixed into a very serious book. So I'm like, if you like the old Vertigo Constantine kind of stories, if you like that true, like, Hellblazer, like, I am not here to, like, make a joke, but I'm going to light a cigarette and make a dry, witty comment while we're doing this. This is going to be a book for you. And it's so well written. It's Simon Spurrier. It's actually one of the first times I've seen him go by Simon instead of just Cy Spurrier. But he is doing a really deep story with this. And you saw the page that I had up that showed, like, the prose version. It's basically a book out of her uncle's, like, a page out of her uncle's handbook that she comes across each time that's like, hey, this is how you deal with this demon, this is everything about it. And I love in this one, it's like, okay, so like demons aren't the only problems, and here's how you deal with like people and things like that too. It's great. Eternus issue 7 from Scout Comics. This is the end of this, and it's actually the only book that ended this week, so we didn't start with endings just because it was my only one. But this is your Greek mythology story, and it takes place in Rome. And so, but it's still very Greek, like they go by the names of Zeus and Athena and all of that. And it's at the time when the one god has come, and all of the Greek gods in the pantheon are like, oh, nobody's going to care about us anymore. They're all into this one god. Like, how can we get our thing, like our pantheon back to the top? And they decide to do, like, for some reason, like, decide that, like, taking out Zeus is going to be a good thing to do. And they've been trying to put him back together in a new, more powerful way. But as far as Hercules knows, they've just killed his father. And so him and a Gorgon, much like Medusa, have been working together to kind of stop this this attack as he sees it on his father. And in this issue, we see the return of who we believe to be Zeus, but we learn something very, very different about this character and about the way the gods should be seen and viewed and how the Pantheon is going to play out. And it's a very nice wrap up because every character kind of hits their beat of where you would think they would wrap up. But if you are a fan of Andy Serkis, known for, of course, Gollum and Claw from Black Panther, he is actually like the showrunner essentially of this. He created the treatment for the writer to make of this story, so he is heavily involved with that. Up next we have Stoneheart issue 6 from Image Comics and Emma Kubert. She is crushing the concept of young adult comics right now. She's so good at the young adult fantasy books, and this one is definitely just a great highlight to that. And this is the story of a young girl her name is a Shade Whisper, and she was trained to be the ultimate paladin of this magical world. And they find out that like she has too much power, and so they're really concerned because it's like, oh my god, like if she actually does find out that she's as powerful as she is, she could be the destruction of all of us. And she's kind of prophesized to like maybe be the one that destroys the world or saves the world. And their concept is like, oh well, the possibility that she could be the one to destroy the world, like we should just wipe her memory and get rid of her, and then we don't have to worry about it either way. And her own mother is a part of that decision, and so she ends up having her memory wiped, and she now is closer to like her teens, early 20s, and she's living in this town, and everything seems to be going wrong, and she doesn't really know where all this like weird stuff, like why all this weird stuff keeps happening to her. But over the course of the last 6 issues, she has had a boy who has come to work with her, and she just thinks he's there to kind of help out and almost like protect her. But of course, like the beautiful trope of YA novels that we know and love, if you are like me, he is actually working for the bad guys, and we have the enemies to friends to maybe more story brewing here, as they both have to work to kind of stop this bad guy who has figured out that she is a paladin of power and kind of wants to go after her. And I just love this book so much. This is that book that has that young adult novel feel that makes me go, oh my god, I wonder what my friends are doing after I close the book, because you get so attached to the character driven story that you get in that kind of storytelling that you're like, these are now my buddies, I just hung out with them, and then you're like, oh my god, I wonder if I should call them and see what they're doing. This is one of those books for sure, and I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait. Like, I don't want her to wrap it up, but I also want to get to like the end of like an arc of but not like that's like, oh, we're gonna have this book go on, like this is gonna be a 50 issue ongoing, so we're gonna take a break at like 12. I just kind of want it to last forever, I'm just gonna be honest. Okay. We have Pop Scars issue 5, some Sumerian up next. This is like your villain version of Ocean's 11. This is about a filmmaker who essentially worked on a film like Jaws, and he had a partner that he worked on the story with, and they now, like, there was all this conspiracies about who actually did what and what happened, and, you know, old Hollywood legends. And now that the guy that was like the assistant on the movie has now taken over the production company, and it's been 30 years or whatever, and he's brought back the movie franchise, and he's got the latest pop star and social media influencer in it and all of this stuff. And the man who originally owned the production company is mad about it, and so he assembles a team of people to help him take down this guy's production company and destroy his chances of actually like releasing this film. And one of the people he recruits is this woman in the pink that they call Pinky. And she is like, I actually am here because I want to be a part of the destruction of my father. And I'm happy to help you guys, but I want to be the one that takes him out in the end. And we have seen a lot of twists and turns on how this story is going to play out. and we're getting close to the last issue. So in this issue, we kind of see a lot of the big reveals of everything kind of coming to a head and what is going to happen. And we also get a couple new twists and turns that are big. And if you've been following along, you might have pieced some of them together. But if you missed little bits and pieces here and there, you might not have seen it coming. So definitely check this out if you do like those kinds of group team up, like This Is How We Made It Happen kind of situations, or any Hollywood like blockbuster drama kind of stuff. This is going to be a great one for you. Here comes Calico. We've got Calico issue 4 from Sigma Comics, and what I'm going to start out by saying my favorite thing about this book is that the proceeds go to stop animal cruelty and to protect animals, and I absolutely love that. I am also going to say that this comic comes with a complete and total trigger warning for how violent it can get. This is definitely only for mature audiences. But I got to meet the Sigma Comics guys behind this wonderful book at San Diego Comic-Con. We got to talk about all of the crazy things that happen in it, and how much they love animals. And they literally just kept saying, like, we just hate people that are mean to animals. And that's our whole plan with this. So this is an 8-issue series, and we are halfway through. And in this issue, we learn a little bit more about our main character, who is Calico, who basically kind of dresses like Black Panther, and he goes around and he stops people who are abusing animals in the most violent possible Punisher Max level violent ways. And in the first issue, he was given some information about a big animal cruelty ring and some people who were really trying to do some violent, terrible, awful things, and they've been trying, him and his oracle essentially have been trying to figure out how to stop them over time. And now in this issue, we are starting to see who those people are, and we're starting to see the way that they are going to fight back against him stopping them. And so we got to see the dark side looking for research on him, and him looking for research on them. But we also got to see how he got into the business of superheroing for animals all at the same time. So his backstory is all in this issue, and you can even see, like, they talk about how they're going to design that suit and what they're going to make for him. Super cool. I also love this because the book is printed on newsprint. And so I love that classic newsprint feel of the paper, and just the absolute greatness. And it's only $2.99 for the comic, and like I said, the money does go to animal stopping animal cruelty. So if you are somebody who believes in that, and you're okay with a really violent superhero, and you're kind of like, I want to go full vigilante someday and defend the people and animals that I love, this is definitely the book for you, because he goes all in on that. I am going to take another drink of this quarter cut wine. Again, it's a barrel-aged Cab Sauv. The flavors are like so, like the aroma of the wine is so strong that when I hold it up to my face, I'm like that to make a big guzzle. It, like, I can smell all of it at the same time, and it's like, okay, this is why you don't guzzle wine. This is why you sip it, because I can feel it all, like, right there. Yeah, it is very powerful. All right, we've got Ghostlore issue 4 from Boom Studios. This is the story of a daughter and father who have never gotten along. He's the town preacher, and he just does not understand what it's like to have a teenage daughter, or what it's like to have somebody who doesn't necessarily believe what he believes. And issue 1 is a beautiful classic. You could have made it a one-shot, and it would have been a perfect story of what it's like for classic ghost stories. Honestly, it would have just been, like, so good that way. But it was just the kickoff point, and I love that too, because now we have the story of this father and daughter who both kind of inherited an ability to speak to ghosts and spirits. And how do you handle that? You know, if you are a preacher who's been told, like, you pass on to the other side and there's nothing left of you here on earth, like, how do you deal with that, especially when you're angry and you don't know how to communicate necessarily anyway? And then you have your daughter who, that's so crazy, I'm going to show you this anyway. You have your daughter who is like, I want to be open to the world. I don't want to have those experience. Like, I don't experience anything the way you do. And it's kind of at that point where she's like, maybe it's time I go my own way, because we don't even see eye to eye on this thing that we have in common. We can't even agree on. And I love that because it's so characteristically true. I don't want to show you anything else in this issue. So characteristically true of that like teenage moment where you feel like even the things you have in common with your parents, they don't understand about you, and maybe I need to do it differently. But it's a horror movie and it's Ghost and it's awesome, and I just absolutely love the way this is building up and the way this connection between these two is growing. And in this issue, we're starting to see that I'm going to go out on my own if I have to go out on my own and get away from you. But we're also seeing the dad get some real world, like crazy, hard truths about the new power that he has had given to him. Up next, we have Murder Inc. Jagger Rose, issue 4 from Dark Horse Comics. And this is Brian Michael Bendis returning to an old world. But what I always like to remind you is sometimes we return to these old worlds, we don't actually need to know the original. This is one of them. If you've never read any of this Murder Inc. world, you're not going to be lost. They have done such a great job. I honestly, I don't even know that, like, you need to ever even know that another world existed. I could have just never told you that. But this is all about a girl who is a part of the big crime families, and in this world, the crime families actually work directly for the Pope. And she has been, like, they are completely entwined, and sometimes they even do murders and things like that. Like, some of the hits come directly from the Vatican. And over the course of this, she has been named kind of one of the best assassins, so much so that the Vatican has asked her to come work directly for them. And Jagger's like, I don't really want to do that. I'm a part of my family. Maybe in the future, but I'm not. That's not what we're here to talk about. Like, I'm not here for that. And she ends up finding out that I just love the Michael Avon Oming art on all of these stories. He's the same person that did a Blue Book recently. But she just had an issue where the Dawn of her family has passed away, and the only option for the family is that they think she might be the best one to take over. And so this is the outcome of them kind of figuring out, like, is she going to take over? Is she going to be good at it? What would happen? Can you trust her? Can we trust the people beneath her? Can the people beneath her be working with her? And it's such a cool thing. And I love the way we get to see some of the rituals that these mob families do. I love the way we get to see the way the Vatican kind of ties into all of this and the choices that are made. It just makes this mob book go a little bit further than your standard operating mob book. And I love what this is doing, and I honestly think that this is the wheelhouse that Brian Michael Bendis does really well in, is these, like, street level criminals and in his own indie world. And so I'm glad that he's returning to that, because street level crime is Brian Michael Bendis' strength, and, like, putting those little twists on it, and then you give that Michael Avon Oming art on it, and it just makes the book really soar to new places. And so if you haven't checked it out, again, doesn't matter if you even know what Murder Inc. is, you can jump in on this series. We're on issue 4 now, so grab those first 3 and check it out. Survival issue 4, also from Dark Horse Comics. This is about a young girl who's in college, and she comes home to see her brother and her father and bring some friends, maybe possibly a boyfriend, back with her. And when she gets to this weird compound that her family lives on, because her dad's like, I have to stay off the grid, like, live off the earth kind of person. And when she gets there, they are all attacked by these creatures who may be vampires, maybe something else, but they are definitely all in on killing people. And so this family that's trained on how to be off the grid is now having to use those survival skills, if you will, towards fighting these monsters that they don't know what they are. And speaking of great ways of using your exposition dump throughout the story, we have been following as this girl kind of gets triggered in each issue to learn different survival tips that her dad gave her and the reasons why behind them that kind of make her struggle. I also like this almost Jurassic Park homage moment where they're hiding from this, like, vampire creature at the bottom, and I just kind of expected it to, like, tap its claws on the countertop because it was so Jurassic Park. But if you want, honestly, like there's so many vampire type books out right now. This is your action movie version. This is the one that feels like, Red Dawn, but with vampires, or actually, honestly, that's the best description I could ever give you for this book. This is Red Dawn with vampires. Instead of yelling Wolverines, they're yelling vampires, essentially. But it's your action movie version of it, with that little bit of heart mixed into it about this family that is struggling to kind of figure out if they can work together. I highly recommend, for those of you who are on the vampire kick right now and need more, that you check that one out. Banshees, issue 3 from Scout Comics. It has been quite a minute since issue 2 on this, and I got nervous we weren't going to get an issue 3, and I'm glad we did because this was such a great issue. This is the story of a girl who goes to college and finds out that her dorm is haunted by the spirits of 3 girls who were all killed by this murderer who's haunted their campus for years. And she gets really... like, I think I can hear ghosts. I think I can see them. I think they're the people who were killed by this person. I've got to investigate. And just finds herself trapped in this loop of needing to know what's going on. And as she investigates, she learns more and more about each of the girls that passed away and more about the possible murder. And she's trying to kind of figure it out. And her roommate warns her to let it go and live her life. And she doesn't. And some things happen. And now... she is doing her investigation in quite a different way. This is so great, and I love the character development. Each person has a very distinctive voice. Each piece of the puzzle is coming together, kind of like your typical horror movie for teens, like any of those. I Know What You Tell Summer, Scream kind of things, but there's just enough of an interesting twist and those great characters that they built that you're like, okay, I actually want to see how this plays out, and I want to follow along with it really closely because I want to see if I can piece together what's going to happen. But I'm also already invested in every single one of the characters, so check it out if you haven't yet. There's 3 issues out now. I always say read 3 issues, you're going to make a decision. So we're about to hit all these number 3s right now, so these are going to be your key books for knowing if they're the book for you. The Nowhere Man, issue 3 from Bad Kids Press. It was a Bad Kids Press week, which means it's a great week at Bat City because I do love my Bad Kids Press. Nowhere Man is about a guy who has just kind of hit the end of his rope. He lost his dad. He's lost the woman he was with. He's kind of lost everything. And I'm going to start with this page first. Now, he has found himself in issue 1. He kind of finds himself in one of those Twilight Zone moments where he wakes up and he's in a town and there's no people in the town. And he's like, I don't know where I am, but everything is a little clue about his life. And in this issue, he's been walking through this desert, and he meets a man who tells him that he is God. He's like, oh, I'm Jesus. I'm here to walk with you. And he even does he's like, how long have you been following me? And he's like, I've always been walking with you. He gives all the cliche statements, and the guy's like, if you're really Jesus, tell me about my life. And he does, and he's like, I don't know if I believe you. And it just gets a little oh, I'm walking am I having a hallucination in the desert? Also, how did I get in a desert? Because I was in a town, and then I was in this place. And I don't think I can trust anything in here. And honestly, if Jesus really looks like that, I don't know that you should trust him either. Because that guy is creepy. But he comes to find out a little bit more about this guy and who he may or may not really be. I don't want to show you much. And then we see a little glimpse of some other parts of the story and a little bit more about where this character is coming from, where he's going, and is there any hope? Once you get into one of these buried spots where you're deep in your mind and your own emotions, can you get out of it? And it's such a great allegory for the world of depression and the world of sadness and the ways that we build those worlds out for ourselves even through this story. So check that one out. Snow White Zombie Apocalypse issue 3 from Scout. This is, I love this, it says it's one of the cool kids on the indie scene as the thing on the back. This is the story of all of your fantasy characters from your classic fairy tales suddenly having to deal with the zombie apocalypse. So we had a one-shot that came out that showed us the king traveling, going in and getting attacked by somebody, and us knowing that it was zombies. And it switched to issue 1, where we started following Rapunzel and Prince Charming as they were trying to make their way through this apocalypse, and they've teamed up and are kind of working their way through the enchanted forest, as it were. They meet Snow White, who is in her little casket waiting for True Love's kiss to come, and now they've been working their way across different villains and different situations that we've learned about throughout fairy tale history. And in this particular issue, they meet up with the huntsman, who is trying to track down the big bad wolf. And his thing is that there are people who are, like, whatever you get attacked by to become a zombie, you kind of take on some of those characteristics. And so these wolves that are turning into zombies are just becoming stronger packs and stronger creatures, but they're also maybe like a Little Red Riding Hood transition, and now she becomes more wolf-like than she ever was before. And so now it's like, hey, who's going to team up with who? How's this going to work out? And we kind of see Rapunzel start to more so doubt this Prince Charming that she's with, and think maybe if she wants to survive, she's going to have to team up with somebody a little bit more her speed when it comes to fighting. And so if you are a fan of fairy tales and you are a fan of zombies, this is the perfect crossover for you for sure. Haunt You to the End, number 3 from Image in the Top Cow imprint. It's crazy how many Top Cow books are starting to come back out again. This features the art of Sarasota local Andrea Moody, which we're always excited to see a feature of, because we love Andrea's art so much. And this is a world where climate change has gotten so bad that things are starting to, like, whole parts of the planet are starting to disappear. And one of the things that this billionaire needs to believe is that there is an afterlife. And the only way to prove that there's an afterlife is to prove that there are ghosts. And things can be haunted. And it's hard to prove that when things just keep disappearing. And so this group of people has been recruited, including a journalist that absolutely hates this person, to go to an island that we know has about 72 hours or so before it is taken under by the ocean reclaiming this area. And so they have all crash landed on this island because things did not work out the way they wanted them to. And now they are investigating different parts of the island, hoping to find some proof that ghosts exist, but also hoping to make it out alive. And as always, in situations like this, we learn that the most terrifying thing that can happen in a situation of any kind is other people. And as this team tries to figure out their team dynamic, it does not seem to be going very well. And I'm really curious where this is going to go, because this is issue 3 and some things of twist and turn nature have happened in this. And the little twists and stuff that we get towards the end, I'm not sure how what direction they're going to go. And so issue 4 is definitely going to bring to life a whole new realm for this story. We've got The Adventures of the GWF, issue 3 from Bad Kids Press. This is wrestling in space with robots and other alien creatures. In issue 1, we see our main character, who is Red, and his dad has been like the most famous wrestler of all time, and wants to kind of follow in his footsteps. And in that first issue, his dad is killed in a battle, and so it's like, oh, well, now I'm going to avenge him, and I'm going to fight all of these people. And he has been kind of working his way towards a championship match so that he can avenge his father. And in this issue, he's just finished up a match, and he's just having to deal with all the politics backstage. Like, his agent is like, you're not doing anything that makes people like you, so it's going to be kind of hard to get you any of the things that you want. And I know you just want to avenge your dad, but like, you're not great at wrestling, and you're not great at people skills. And then he's got this one terrible, like, sidekick kind of guy who really, really actually wants to be his sidekick, so much so that he gets his lawyer to draft up a document that says they'll be partners and a tag team, or at least that he can work with him on the side. And anything he does at all will be an acknowledgement of a yes. answer. And so even blowing him off and telling him to go away makes him automatically his sidekick. It's great. It's a great little comedy that also has that heart of I want people to believe in me, but more so than that, I want people. I want to get the avengement and the fulfillment of restoring my dad's name and defeating the person who defeated him, so that I can show the world, but also my late father, that I am worth believing in. And so if it's Bad Kids Press, it's going to be funny, but it's also going to have some great heart. So grab this book if you're into wrestling or robots, and know that it is more of like that behind the scenes stuff, but we get like one fun little match in each one. We Wicked Ones, issue 3 from Scout Comics. I feel like I'm just bouncing back and forth between Scout and Bad Kids right now, and I'm not mad at it. I call this my, if you are missing black magic as much as I am right now, this is the book that you need to be picking up to fill that void. This is the story of our society, which still has witches in it, sort of. We've kind of gotten to the point where we are still burning witches in this society, but now the government is in charge of that. I guess the government's always been in charge of burning witches, but with modern government. And so at this point, like, there's not a lot of magic in the world, and in order to share, like, to give magic, you have to share magic. And in issue 1, we see 2 girls who have always been, they're kind of like their own little coven. They've always worked together. They've been best friends. They share magic together to give one of their children magic to use in his life. And one of the girls works as an assassin for people of power, and they kind of all hide the fact that she's a witch just because they want her to be their assassin. And now the elite task force that is tasked with finding witches has come after her, but instead they find the other girl. And so we are setting up this quest of, I'm going to save my best friend, and I'm going to do it at whatever means possible. And I will use all and any magic or my own bare hands if I have to save my friend. And now she's also kind of like taking over watching this child, and it's like, oh, I'm like the loner, the assassin, the one who doesn't do any of these things. And now she's kind of got to be this parent figure and the responsible one in so many ways. But we also learn in this issue that one of the characters who is on this elite government task force has some ties to our 2 witches, and we kind of see how that's going to play out either for or against those characters as that comes into the story. Great job so far with this book. I really like the characters. I really like the story. Again, if you are a fan of Greg Rucka and Nicholas Scott's Black Magic and you missed that book because it is on that hiatus, this will 100% fill the void. Feeder, issue 3 from Sumerian Comics. This is essentially what if Bruce Willis tried to do a really serious movie and it bombed really bad and he didn't recover from it, so he decided to become a hitman. And so honestly, I even like it because his last name is Kid, and I know, like, and he's like the royal kid is like what they call him. I think it's funny because I know The Kid was the movie that everybody was like, is Bruce Willis done after that movie came out? And then that's the whole thing in this. But so this is exactly that. And so far we've been following him as a hitman. And he's like, oh, I don't even need money. Like, he's doing it all for drugs and for the wrong reasons and things like that. And in this, in issue 1, he gets hired to go after a woman. He's told he's going after a woman who stole $30,000 or $300,000 from a crime boss. And it turns out, he finds out that it's actually a teenage girl, and she took $35, and it's because that's what he owed her. And she literally just took it out of his wallet because he owed her money. And he's like, hey, I can't kill a teenage girl, and she didn't do anything wrong. Like, he should have paid his debts. And so now he's on this quest to keep this girl safe, and so they've teamed up and they're kind of going against all of the mobsters and all of the people that are coming after him. But he is somebody who's like super famous. And so everywhere he goes, people are like, hey, aren't you that guy from those movies? And he's also a drug addict. So he's coming down from all of that, and he's got to decide whether or not he's going to protect this girl or partake in the things that he's used to. Next up is Katie Black Dragon, issue 3, also from Bad Kids Press. Should switch those so I could have kept my back and forth. If you have not read Katie Black Dragon before, this is such a fun book that is just kind of this woman named Katie Black Dragon going through space, doing all kinds of crazy things, and just kind of showing up to save the day in different ways in different places. And in this particular issue, Katie is asked if she can participate in a speedster race. So she's got to come basically do the pod racing from episode 1 of Star Wars, except on speed racer bikes instead. And it's a group of women who have constantly had the better team, but for some reason can't beat this team of males who don't qualify near as high as them ever, and they suspect there's some cheating, and one of their bikes is sabotaged, and in the process of that, one of their racers is injured very, very poorly, and so they ask Katie Black Dragon if she can come and step in to save the day. But what Katie doesn't know is that when you do this race, you have to take a bunch of hallucinogens. And so as soon as the race starts, Katie is ingesting all of this stuff and doesn't actually know how to keep it together while she's supposed to be doing this race. And so we get to see a highly comical experience of Katie trying to hold herself together while also participating in this race. And everything that happens after that is a giant amusement park of fun. So if you want to laugh out loud at this ridiculousness of this woman not able to put things together, I highly recommend you grab Katie Black Dragon and just see how that story plays out. And honestly, like, you don't even have to necessarily read issue 1 and 2. You can kind of just grab this 3rd issue if you just want to see like what I'm talking about and laugh about it. Just grab that one. You can jump in right there. Up next, a book that I literally went back and forth on whether or not it should be a pick of the week because I just love it so much. And honestly, like, I could go either way still at this moment because it's so good. But this is North Valley Grimoire, issue 3 from Massive Publishing, which is Whatnot's publishing company. This is far and away my favorite thing that the Whatnot publishing company has put out. And it's not surprising because Blake Northcott, who is an author and screenwriter, is also I believe the editor-in-chief of Massive Publishing. So I expect nothing less from somebody who's accomplished all of those wonderful things that she has done. But this is the story of a girl who is in college, and her best friend and her just are absolutely super close, and her best friend gets killed or dies. She's not really sure, so we're not really sure. And she's kind of having a struggle dealing with it. And in the process of that, she finds a book under her bed that she believes belonged to him. And it is actually a grimoire, which is a spell book for witches, for those of you who may not know that term. And she is slowly piecing it together. I love this basically Scarlet Witch homage moment right here. She's basically piecing it together and figuring out all of this magic when she's had no magic experience. She didn't even know magic was a real thing 5 minutes ago. But at the same time, we have a guy whose job it is to investigate magical encounters in the world. And he basically works for a CIA type branch of the government. That job it is to focus on stopping magic things from happening and from getting too far out. And these two stories are continuously cross paths in the most interesting way. I love the writing on this story. I love the characters. I cannot wait to see more from this book. It's so great. Again, magical detective stories get me every time. And this one hits all of those. This one kind of feels a little more like Shadow Service from Vault Comics. If you didn't read that, grab all of the volumes of that because it's so good. But this has been like highly praised by so many different people, and I can see why, and highly recommend it as well. And also, this is a cool Pulp Fiction homage cover, which the Whatnot books either have a video game or a movie homage cover on everything they do, so I love that. I'm going to take another drink. All right, now we've got some number 2s out. We've got, this is the longest thing ever. Matt, don't try to write it down. The unbelievable, unfortunately, mostly unreadable, and nearly unpublishable Untold Tales of I Hate Fairyland, number 2. I would call it Untold Tales of I Hate Fairyland if it was me. And this is from Image Comics, and the massive world that Scotty Young has built out of I Hate Fairyland. And this is great for those people who have been like, I really want to get into I Hate Fairyland, but I know it's like 5 volumes in, and volume 6 is out right now. How do I know if it's for me? This is an anthology series. Each one of these unbelievable untold stories has 3 or 4 stories within it, and they kind of just tell you a little bit about the world. I said that, and then the very first one, and this is the most you need to have read I Hate Fairyland of all of them, because it's about Queen Claudia. Ooh, I can speak. It's about Queen Claudia, who used to run Fairyland until Gert messed some stuff up, and just about the darkness that overtakes her. And I'm going to skip that one to go to ones that you don't need to know anything about. And this is Gert waking up one day with a really bad hangover and a monstrous problem in her life, and she's like, does anybody know what happened, how I got here? And they're like, we need to retrace your steps to figure it out. And she's like, how will I know where my steps are? And of course it's Gert, so there is a actual path of bloody footsteps that lead her back to all the things she does. And so she has one of those dude, where's my car kind of stories, where she goes back through her night before. And I love that they even gave us an actual maze, so you can help Gert go back through her bloody footsteps in this maze and see where we end up for the next page, which I love. And we get to see how that works out for Gert and all of the terrible decisions she makes as she goes through that. And then the last story in it is Gert talking to a little friend that she's made over the course of her time in Fairyland, and they are trying to help her not have the terrible temper that continuously gets Gert in trouble everywhere she goes. And they are playing cards together, and it's like, hey, look at Gert, she's doing so well. Even when she loses, she holds it together. And of course that does not last long because it's Gert. She is such a hilarious, wonderful character, and honestly the inner child for so many people, where we want to just be leaving magic and we want to have fun, but at the same time you are like, you have so many things that you're like angry and you want to rant and destroy and do all the things. And so she's so great. This angry woman stuck inside of a child's body, inside of a magical world. And it's fun for those who have read I Hate Fairyland to see these other stories, but it's a great way for those who didn't to kind of just see, like, is this going to be a character that you want to even get to know? Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons, issue 2 from IDW. This is a Godzilla pirate story, which I don't know that I can ever say that I've had before until this series. But this is all about a pirate who has been captured by the Queen's Navy, and of course they're going to put this pirate on the gallows because piracy is illegal and you can't do it. And he's like, okay, well, you could do that, but you'll never find all of the stuff that I know, which includes where Monster Island is and this crazy story about that. And so he has been sitting in prison telling this story about how his group that he used to be with went against the Spanish Armada. And on the process of trying to get away from them, they discover Monster Island, and the great and wonderful Godzilla is there to help them out. And so we've gotten this potentially tall tale from this pirate, and he is, you guys need to believe this. You don't want to get yourselves in danger. But then they land on Monster Island in this issue, and he's like, okay, well, you thought that giant dinosaur was crazy. How about this? Like, we've got sea turtles and things like that. And they're like, we refuse to believe you for any of those things because you said dragons were real with Godzilla. And he's like, I mean, you wouldn't call the queen in our religion a liar, right? Because St. George defeated the dragons. So are you trying to say dragons aren't real? And they're like, okay, well, maybe the dragons are real, but giant sea turtles and giant spiders and creatures like that are where we draw the line. And so his fate is up in the air as he goes a little further and further into what Monster Island is. I cannot wait to see if he makes it out, but also if they make it back to Monster Island. And I'm just really excited about this book that's on the back cover, and every time I hold it up, I get excited. There is a new book coming out from the Scott Snyder Dark Spaces, and it's called Hollywood Special. And it is going to be about the golden age of Hollywood and some dark supernatural terrors that are within that. And I'm a huge fan of the Dark Spaces imprint from Scott Snyder. And I'm a huge fan of the golden age of Hollywood. And I'm a huge fan of Jordi Belaire's colors. And so this is going to be a fantastic book that I cannot wait to read when that comes out. Weird Work issue 2 from Image Comics. For all of my Shaky Kane fans, I know I have a ton. Shaky Kane is back on some covers, but also on some interior art. And this is a weird, crazy, off-the-wall mobster story. The tagline on the back is even cops, cults, crooks, and corruption. It's weird work, but somebody's got to do it. And this is what I mean by that. We are working with 2 detectives who are trying to figure out what is going on as mobsters are suddenly showing up, being killed by invisible assassins and people who we've never seen in this area before. We've got different deaths coming in different ways, and these 2 detectives are trying to put it all together. But how do you put it together when some of them are in fact invisible and some of them are babies and all kinds of weird things are happening and everything keeps disappearing before they can put it together. So you get your classic detective story of the old cop working with the young cop he doesn't trust, who's dirty and who isn't in the police department, but you also get it in the most weird way possible. And so you've got crazy creatures, you've got a drug cult of people whose brains get really, really big and then they die. It's so off the wall, like, honestly and truthfully. You got to be prepared to just go in with the weirdest mindset, and whatever you think it's going to be, just know it's going to be weirder than that, and you're going to enjoy it because it's a well-written story, absolutely. But it's just, none of it is the sense that you would think that things would make. So, like, turn your world upside down and then try to stop a crime, and that's what you're going to get in here. And it's really cool. It's Shaky Kane art, so it's really cool and really exciting colors and storytelling. I always struggle with how much of this I can show. None of it's got anything really bad, but this is Dominatrix from Gene Simmons and Opus Comics, and this is issue 2 of that. I love that all of the Kiss fans finally get something from Opus Comics in that we get a Gene Simmons comics. But for those who were fans of AWA's Hit Me, I think this is going to be a book that you kind of find really exciting. But this is about a woman who is a dominatrix, and she is on a client assignment, and something happens, and she gets sucked into this world of mobsters and drug lords and dangerous beings. And so she decides that she isn't going to just take it sitting down. She's going to actually try to get rid of it and fight back. And she discovers these pills, which is one of the drugs that they're running. And she knows them from her mom's experience with drugs, that they kind of help you get a little bit superpower-esque. And so she starts using them as a way to enhance herself into a super soldier when she's having these fighting moments. But she doesn't have a costume. She doesn't really have like extra superhero clothes. So she just uses her dominatrix outfit whenever she's fighting against people, because it does come with a mask. And she's on this mission, and she's like, hey, I'm going to figure out who all these bad guys are, and I'm going to take them down one by one, because I'm tired of all of this stuff, and now they're coming after friends and family and different people, and I'm tired of people dying of drug addictions, because that's what happened to my mom. And so you get this actually, like, really heartfelt, like, character development blended into this action-packed story, and it's such a cool book. So again, if you liked Hit Me by AWA, I think this is your next book that falls into that same vein. But if you're a Gene Simmons fan, like, this isn't his first comic work, but it's definitely the newest one. I know there's so many Kiss fans. I'm like, guys, Kiss finally at Opus, and yet not about. I mean, I don't know. Is there a Kiss song that's about that? Before I say it's not.
All kinds of that.
They're all about that. Of course they are. Yes.
Right.
What's your closest Kiss song reference to that book in your mind?
What's the one about black leather?
I don't know this one.
Something wearing black leather.
Oh. That's as much as you can sing of it. That's like 10 seconds.
Hit me, something black leather. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just all kind of falls into it, but not a direct song. Like, so many of the Opus comics have been like an exact like album or an exact song, like piece by piece.
Right.
This is just a story that kind of hits on things that Gene Simmons has been a part of singing about, I guess I should say, not necessarily been
Shock Me. It's called
Shock Me. That's kind of the most.
Yeah.
I would be curious. I want you to read this book because I know you're.
Come on and shock me. Put on your black leather. Come on and shock me. Make me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a huge Kiss fan, I want you to read it and then tell me all the Kiss references in it that I don't get because I don't recognize those references. And then I'll know next time. Because we all know that I didn't know Halloween was a band, so I don't have the background knowledge that is needed to be the cool kid when it comes to Opus Comics, but I do like how well written Opus Comics are. So, you know, even if you don't know the music, I'm always like, you can enjoy an Opus comic without knowing any of the bands because I enjoy all of them. I don't know any of the bands, and I promise I do listen to music. I just apparently am not good at retaining what I hear. So,
you have to listen to more Kiss.
I know. We really should.
It's rock and roll.
Up next, we have Con and On, issue 2 from Ahoy Comics. And this is the story. It starts out the story of two friends who go to a convention back in like the 90s, and it's like, oh, like convention, like it's exciting. It's like this convention's hitting 25,000 people. It's the largest convention to ever happen. Like, yay, comics. And she wants to do art, and he wants to work in comics as well. And he ends up he doesn't really have like the skills necessarily to do it, and so, but he ends up, of course, getting like picked up immediately because he meets the right people and they all get like drunk at a party, and she's out there actually peddling her portfolio and trying to meet people and doesn't get picked up. And now we have, after that first issue, we have fast forwarded to 2001. Now conventions are starting to have 50,000 people at them, and she goes to this convention, and it's just hey, like, I really want to meet you, like I want to get my stuff working, I want to build this out. And she's again getting met by closed doors, even like when she goes to the group that's supposed to be the group for people who are not necessarily. I have to show this again really fast and pause because this is actually like her meeting Jack Kirby, and he tells her comics will break your heart, but even when she goes to the group that's supposed to be for people who aren't traditional comic creators, they're like, wow, there sure are a lot of women in here. I don't know what you ladies are hoping to accomplish, kind of thing. And it's like, make comics? And so she ends up running into, in this issue, her old friend, and he's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I can get them to, like, you know, a meeting with you and them for you. And she's like, oh, that would be great. And he's like, I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but, and he's just completely like become kind of a jerk about everything. And it's just a really nice, I think Al Ewing says it way better than me. He says it's a world of comics history, only slightly altered to protect the innocent and the guilty. And it's so true. You can, as you read it, you're like, I think I know who they're talking about here. And then you're like, I definitely know who they're talking about there. And I love books that comment on on our industry in that way, like in how comics have always been, and seeing comic conventions actually being about comics and seeing all of the interworkings of that. That's always my favorite thing. As somebody who likes to go to comic conventions just to be a part of the industry and always like soak it up and network and engage, I love seeing a book that's about people in the industry doing that. And you know, I've been on all sides of it, like trying to be a part of it, and so I love this book so much. And it's Ahoy, so you know they don't pull punches at all in any way, and they're always like just pushing into what that real world experience looks like for so many of us. And honestly, if you are a comic creator, if you're a comic fan, if you love comic conventions, you need to grab issues 1 and 2 immediately and catch up on this series, because it's just so much of that. All right, so we got some number ones. This is a one-shot, and it is the Ranger Stranger Summer Special from Scout Comics. And if you've never read Ranger Stranger, imagine, if you will, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy, but in comic form, where they can take it way further than Saturday Night Live ever could. And back in the 80s, we did go far on Saturday Night Live.
And if you're below the age of 25 and don't know what that is, think Adult Swim.
There you go.
In a national park.
Okay, I'm 40. Adult Swim never crosses my mind at all.
Right.
So
The kids
I know, the
think
kids
that.
know Adult Swim. I don't know the Adult Swim. If you're...
And they're getting rid of Cartoon Network, they announced.
They announced that they're getting rid of Cartoon
That's what I
Network?
heard this week. Yeah, they're going to get rid of Cartoon Network.
Somebody tell me if that's true in the comments, because we're going to have to like pour one out for Cartoon Network or something at some point.
Yeah. But it's Adult Swim with a park ranger.
There you go. This is exactly that, and this is our summer issue. Ranger Stranger originally started out as a digital comic for a series of like one-shots for Scout Comics, and now they put them in print, and I love that they do, because I love the ridiculousness of this. This is our summer special. We get one every season so we can see what's going on in the park. There's also, I don't know if it's still up, but there used to be a thing on the Scout website where you could actually go to the park and see how the park ranger and the park life was living outside in between those things. But he's absurd. He's very, very bad at his job, and everything he does is crass and terrible. And he's got a young girl and a beaver that he is working with, and he's supposed to be teaching them all about life in the park and responsibility, and you know, that's not what happens. And everything goes to the line, and then they blow the line up in the same way that they just blew up that whale on the last issue. So this is, I don't know what else to say. It's hilarious, honestly. And it's park ranger humor. And so if you, what? It's vignettes. That's great too. Yeah, all of them. There's usually like 8 or more little mini stories in there. So it's like the most adult version of Archie kind of vignettes that you could ever possibly get. The complete 180% opposite of Archie. Okay, so Holly said they announced it on July 11th, so that they were getting rid of Cartoon Network, and that is the saddest thing that I have heard. I always love to read you the funny blurbs on the back of what people say, so this is the best one I've ever had. This is everyone's crazy about Ranger Stranger, but don't take our word for it. You've got, I don't have any money, please don't go away, from the woman in the gas station. Why are you doing this, from Larry W. If you untie me, I promise I won't call the cops. Why would I? We're friends, from Dawn Fresh Air Mallart. It's surprising how much you can fit up there, from Guy Speranza. Do something with Where's the Beef? That was funny, from Tyrone Portis. Get that rag out of my face. Somebody help me, from Name Unintelligible. And I hear voices too sometimes. You're just confused. It's okay to be confused, from Pastor Curtis Pebbles. So if that doesn't give you any more clue about what the humor is like in this book, I don't know what would. But it's ridiculous, and in all of the best and worst ways possible. I'm gonna take a drink because I can. And again, we're drinking Quarter Cut bourbon barrel aged wine. It's Cab Sav from California. You can get it at Aldi. It says it pairs great with burgers. It is a very strong flavored wine. So keep that in mind if you're like, I'm not into tannins or I'm not into strong flavors and I want something sweet. This is the far opposite of what you want. But if you like all of those things I just named, you're going to love it because it is all of those things and then some. All right, we've got the return of That Texas Blood with a new spin-off type series of it, almost a prequel series, and it's called The Enfield Gang Massacre. And this is issue 1. Same creative team, so you've got Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips back on this. And like I said, it's very much prequel because it does take place in the Ambrose County, which is where all of the That Texas Blood stuff has been taking place, but it goes way back in time. Also, because it is Old West and it's supposed to feel like that and be that, this is also a newsprint comic. Even the cover is it's like a thicker version of newsprint. It's so thin and so light, and I love it so much. Look at this. Jacob's just gonna let me let Jacob show off a little bit also while I show you a little bit of this book. But this is the story of the Enfield Gang Massacre. Just that we see the Enfield Gang robbing a bank at the very beginning, and honestly, they've robbed the same bank multiple times, and the bank owner is like, look, if you keep robbing the same bank, we're not gonna have any money because nobody's gonna put their money in this bank because it keeps getting robbed. Then you're not gonna have any money to steal, I'm not gonna have any customers, and we're all gonna be poor. Why don't you just stop stealing money and come work here and be a part of the bank? And the guy's like, I'll keep that in mind, but I'm taking the money today. Because it's a small town in West Texas in the Old West. And so then it kind of skips over to the town hall meeting, and they're like, hey, we've got to do something about the fact that like the law in this town doesn't really work. None of these people are doing their job. People are getting murdered. The banks are getting robbed. Like, we need a better law enforcement. We've got this Texas Ranger who lives here. Like, why don't we put him in charge? And he's like, who says I want to be in charge? I'm just here for a town hall meeting. And a man comes in, and tells everybody he's been shot and that the bank owner has been killed. And everybody immediately assumes that it is the Enfield Gang because they know that they rob the bank on a regular basis. And now we spend the second half of the book getting ready to investigate what's going on. Now, for those of you who have read That Texas Blood, there's a little bit of supernatural weirdness that happens at all times that's really messed up Ambrose County. So who knows what actually happened? Maybe we're going to see that come to play, but there's always some crazed people or things in this county. For those of you who haven't, I honestly think this is a great place to start because we are 3-4 volumes into That Texas Blood. How many are we in, Matt? 3, 4?
3, I think.
Yeah, and this doesn't have that cast of characters in it. This is hundreds of years before that. This is Old West time period. So if you have been like, I'm kind of interested in this series, I don't know where to start, here's a good starting point. It's going to be a completely unrelated story, a great Old West, and it's done by Jacob Phillips, whose dad is Sean Phillips, who works with Ed Brubaker on all of the classic pulp stories. So his art, and Jacob has been the colorist on those pulp stories for Brubaker and Phillips for so long that he has this mastery of great pulp work. And Chris Condon had actually written That Texas Blood as a screenplay and decided to go the comic route with it, and I'm so glad he did that because he has now just expanded on this universe, and it's been fantastic. And of course now I hope that it gets optioned for a movie. It's so funny because I'm like, okay, but now it really does need to be a movie because I'm completely invested. But again, if you've never heard of That Texas Blood, doesn't matter, you can pick this up and you can fall in love with Ambrose County. And I love newsprint. I'm so happy we're putting some newsprint comics together. Speaking of returns, we have the return of Killer Queens with Killer Queens 2 from Dark Horse Comics. This is issue 1. And this volume is called Kings Not Wings. And Kings Not Wings. And I'm really excited. If you've never read Killer Queens, We actually have issues of the whole first volume. There are also trade paperbacks of the first volume. This is David Boer, who does Canto, going up to an adult level story. And like their whole thing is putting the sass in Assassin, because this is pulp comics, space pulp comics, as queer as you could possibly make them. And I love every second of it. In volume 1, we met our two main characters who are on their own, working as space assassins and not wanting to deal with anybody's anything. And they have been just on doing all the worst missions, making all the worst choices, and being hilarious along the way. And in this volume, we open up where we are learning that there is a prince who doesn't want to be a part of the family that he's in. He wants to run away, and he does just that. And now everybody, like every bounty hunter in the world, is after him and trying to find him. And our two main characters have come to this spaceport, and they're just trying to live their best life and have the biggest party. And I think it's Space Pride at the time. And so they're just like, we want to go to the parades, we want to do all this stuff, but their paths cross with the prince, and they have to make a choice of whether or not they're going to help him, collect him, or ignore it entirely. And that is going to be the launch of our latest thrilling adventure, as they call it, for the Killer Queens universe. And honestly, David Boer, just keep making 4-part miniseries of Killer Queens as much and as often as possible, in between making the world's greatest comic, Canto. Don't ever stop that either, even though I think there's only like one more volume of that before I cry. Up next, we have Mech Cadets issue 1 from Boom Studios. If you got the Free Comic Book Day issue, that was a great lead into what we're going to see in this. It is not the same issue. I know a lot of times the Free Comic Book Day issue and the first issue are exactly the same. This is not one of those cases. And if you have ever read Met Cadet U, this is in that same world. But you do not have to know that story. And all of that to say this is all going to be a Netflix show soon. But this is the story of a group of kids who have gone through a mech academy, and they all have mech suits that they wear, and they use them to defend the world. And we find out that our leader of the group her dad is the one in charge of the military, and she's always like trying to do exactly like what she needs to be to be the golden child, except when they're on a mission, she never ends up doing what they say. She always does what she thinks is the best option to save the day. And she gets relieved of her duty in this issue because they think it will help her stop going against the government and all of the things that they want them to do. And they put somebody in charge who's more of like the studious person who they think won't act out. And then they send them on a mission. And in that mission, they find out that the government is not what they've been told it was. And that sometimes the people in power are not the people you think they are. And sometimes parent politics are not the thing you want to follow. And these teenagers all kind of just have to determine for themselves how they're going to use this mech power and what is better to do, what's right in regards to, I was told to do this, and that is what's right because an adult told me to do this, or do I do what's right because it is what's best for the people of the world? And issue 1 packed all kinds of robot charge punches immediately, and I cannot wait for this show based off of this issue alone. So check it out. Grab the Free Comic Book Day issue that Boom put out, but also grab this one to get you started. Up next, we have Dwellings #1 from Oni Press. This is going to be one of those books that's a little hard to come by, but you definitely want to find it for sure.
That's right, that came out this week.
It did come out this week. I know. I read it on Tuesday at like 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's been so long. But
I haven't heard. I forgot what the release date was.
Yeah, this is basically a Harvey Comics style drawn story. So for those of you who are like fans of Casper, Wendy the Witch, it looks like that, except it is the opposite entirely. This is a horror story in that style. And it is also miniature vignettes. And so the very first one is about a young boy who has a problem with murder. He's really bad at that. He just keeps murdering people. And he ends up getting into being friends with some crows. And if you know anything about crows, you know that they are called a murder of crows. And so this young boy is like, oh my God, if you become friends with crows, they just expect you to murder people all the time. That's why they're called that. And now I don't know what to do. And he just kind of goes down this like long train of I have to murder people because my crow friends won't like me. My favorite thing is that you get fake ads, and I am a sucker for fake ads. Honestly and truthfully, if you want to sell your comic book to me, just put the most ridiculous fake ad in it, and I will buy your comic book just for the fake ad. I'm not going to lie to you. And this one has some of the best. It literally was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I know I should go to sleep, but I have to pore over these fake ads in detail. Anyway, the first story is actually pretty long. That's all the first story. So if you can see how many pages that has in there, it's pretty long. Like, they are vignettes and single issues, but not really. And then I don't want to show you that page, sorry. And then we go to the second one, which is about a girl who is a research student. Like, she's a student. She's trying to do research for her dissertation. And she's like, oh, I heard about this kid who's suddenly speaking different languages, and they say that that's like a certain kind of trauma. So I'm going to go investigate the situation. And while she's there, she's like, I don't think this is just a kid who speaks different languages. I think he's been possessed. I think there's some cult stuff going on. I think that this is terrible, and I'm doing all this investigation and nobody believes me. And her professor is like, you're just having one of those like dissociation things where you start to bring your believe what you want to believe because there's nobody to tell you that that's not what the case is. And she's like, no, I really think that's what's happening. And so a lot of bad things happen, and her investigation gets crazy and crazier, and then you get more fake ads. I love fake ads. There's so many in this book. Please, again, all of the fake ads all of the time, especially these, because they're just ridiculously terrible horror ads. Like, there's even fake ads on the back, and I'll show you those at the end. I guess there's only the 2 vignettes. So there's the 2 big stories. So it's really just a double issue, not vignettes. But the back has fake ads for dwellings coming out, but it also has one for Halloween costumes and foreign accents. And again, if you, it does say double feature on the front. Okay, there you go. It also says, it has like a fake Comics Code Authority thing on the front that says definitely not for kids or cowards. And it is the most violent children-looking comic that you're probably going to read this week. What is that video game that you keep telling me is so cute and yet is terrible all at the same time? The one with like the sacrificing and stuff.
Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb. If you've played Cult of the Lamb, the video game, this is a comic book version of that, essentially, where it's issue 2 of this is definitely that. So check it out if you like horror and you like comic books, and you honestly like, if you like that Harvey style art with the cute little kids and stuff, this is definitely going to fit all of those things. The last book in our number ones is a nonstop. So it's Comic Books Kill, issue 1 from Scout. And as a nonstop, it means we are going to get the 1 issue, and then we are going to hop into a trade paperback. And again, thank goodness for that, because I am so invested in this book. I'm so happy I get to read all of it at one time after this moment. Please pick up this issue and figure if it's for you, and tell your LCS, your local comic shop, that you need it, because you do. Everything that I am a sucker for comes to play in this book. It is crime noir. It is classic, like, comic book history, and it is great character development. So this is about a guy who wants to be a comic book creator, so much so he's willing to go out on a ledge, literally, to get into this meeting. But the thing is that the comic book industry actually happens to be run by mobsters. And so he's like, oh, I really want to get into comics, but all the mobsters kind of control the comic industry. So he ends up walking into this meeting that he was supposed to have about his comic book and discovering that the mob is actually there with the publisher and editor-in-chief. And so he's like, oh, man, sorry, I didn't know this was going down. I just really wanted to pitch my comic book. And then he pitches his comic book, which is essentially just the Rocketeer. Look at that top right panel. He has essentially just made the Rocketeer, and he's like, it's a great idea. You want to check it out. So I love that we get a little bit of his comic in it. The mobsters are like, that does sound like kind of a good idea. Maybe you should pitch that around. But then you get your classic 40s style comic out also going on at the same time, where he, goes to the bar and meets the dame who he's got to save. And so you get that classic crime noir moment before comics, in fact, will break his heart. I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait to read the rest of it. And I'm so glad, again, that it's going to come out all at one time. But I highly recommend you pick up this issue. Figure out if you're going to be in love with it. Because if you like crime noir stories, if you like classic pulp comics, if you like history of comics, it kind of blends all of those things together and gives us a great story. And I love is it on the front? Yeah, I love that she's like, oh, this person is dead, and they're like on top of comic panel pages. That's so good. Anyway, check it out for sure. This one was one of the mini books that teetered. I honestly had to stop myself because I think at one point I had 10 books in the picks of the week, and I was like, calm down, Shannon. Just remember that you just love comics. They can't all be the pick of the week. But there are some that are, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit because I need to end on a happier note than what I was going to. Every book in the picks of the week this week is sad or scary in some capacity. But so here we are with picks of the week. We are starting out with issue 2 of Swan Songs from Image Comics and W. Maxwell Prince, the creator of Ice Cream Man. This is going to be an anthology series, and each one has a different artist. So the first one, I believe he actually paired up with, was it Martin Simmons? I think the first one he paired with Martin Simmons from Department of Truth. This is him pairing up with Caspar Wingard, who most recently did All Against All, who also is on Homesick Pilots for fans of that. And the next one, oh my gosh, I think they announced who it was he's with, and he's with the artist of Many Deaths of Layla Starr. She can kill me. I already know. This is the story, though, of a couple, and they are in a therapy session, and they are talking about how love essentially is a battle. You are at war against everybody else in the world to keep your romance safe and pure, but you're also at war against each other a lot of the times. And I love it because they're in the process of getting divorced, and they're like, you will always be in this battle against each other is basically the situation that you're going to face. And so we get to see them go through these battles infinitely throughout time. So they go back to like the ancient war days with knights, and they go back to like samurai battles and different things. But in between all of that, they're also just kind of telling the story of how they met. They're meet cute in the grocery store, and you get her version versus his version, and then how they fell in love and what it was like getting married and what it was like starting to live together. And it's always like his thoughts versus her thoughts, and they kind of balance out. And I love when sometimes they agree and sometimes they don't. And then it goes, again, like I said, back to like another battle between them. But the thing about this book that made it a pick of the week is not just like Caspar Wingard doing all these different kinds of art and like the craziness of that. But for me, W. Maxwell Prince's understanding of humanity is so strong and so wonderful. And he constantly sits there and makes us reevaluate ourselves and what we're doing with our own lives and what we feel about our lives. And this one being about this couple that thinks that their love isn't strong enough for different reasons, and that they're at this war against each other, but also like, what is love if it's not working through all of those moments? I love this because they actually call this scene their Kirby battle. But it's like, what is love if it's not all of these things? And yet, like, the story doesn't necessarily go, like, nothing W. Maxwell Prince ever goes to, like, a happy place. And yet, at the same time, this is almost the most positive W. Maxwell Prince story I've ever read in my life. Just because it's like, if you have any of those feelings, you're like, love is all of those things. It is this battle against the world. It is this battle against each other. It is this, like, let's work together. Let's overcome these different things. And, like, maybe that doesn't work sometimes. And maybe it does, and we don't even see it. And, like, sometimes we don't see the way it is working for us. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And I almost think W. Maxwell Prince isn't a real person. And he's just this amalgamation of a million people and all of their thoughts at one time. Because the fact that one person can just see the human, like, condition so well blows my mind. But if you told me that W. Maxwell Prince is going to go down as one of, like, the way Freud and all of them went down as, like, this psychologist who, like, diagnosed our entire humanity, but for modern times, I would not be surprised, because that's exactly what I feel like he's doing. It's just diagnosing humanity in one issue of a comic at a time. And you should read them all, starting with Ice Cream Man. Maybe starting with 1 Week in the Library, because that's where it actually started for us. Up next, we have The Antagonist, issue 1 from Godhood Comics. This has been a big one here at the store this week. We had a lot of people in and out of the shop talking about it. And this is, I mentioned this in our live vibe this week. We just did a lesson on the concept of antagonist versus villain in our kids story spill anchor group. This is not a kid's book at all, so I almost want to do the lesson all over again, though, for adults, because this is a great conversation of what is an antagonist versus what is a villain. Is somebody, like, automatically evil just because society paints them that way, or do we make the choice to become that? This opens up with a woman who is a part of a family. Their last name is Eval, Eval, and she is a top executive at a firm, and she has made the firm millions and millions of dollars, and they are talking about who should be named the next executive and the next, like, partner kind of situation. And it's her versus a man who happens to be her intern. And they're like, well, he's done some really great work around the company. Like, yeah, she's made us millions and millions of dollars, but, like, I mean, think of all the great work he did getting that coffee, am I right? And we kind of see the way women are treated in those situations. And then she overhears some people talking in the office and kind of learns some behind the scenes information about that. And she decides she needs to address the situation. And she tries to address it appropriately. And that's not handled well. And so she decides to address it her own way. Meanwhile, at the same time, we see her husband and her daughter. The husband is the principal of the school that their daughter, who is a high school cheerleader, goes to. And he's kind of like, look, we have to follow extra rules because of, all of these different circumstances, the color of our skin, the status that we maintain, also the fact that we have different abilities than other people, because we do learn some special things about this family. And he's like, you can't act out. And while he's trying to teach his daughter that she can't act out, his wife decides to handle things in her own way. And she has a conversation with the leader at the end, diagnosing that very thing of what is an antagonist, what is a villain, what makes somebody good versus what makes somebody evil, and who gets to decide that. And then she pushes that a little bit further by making those choices herself, and we are going to see how that plays out for all of them as the story unfolds. And I highly recommend you check it out, for sure. Up next, we have one shot that is the Dushin Smile from Blood Moon Comics and Damian Connolly. So if you've read Follow Me Into the Darkness or You Promised Me Darkness, you may be familiar with Damian's work, which is always the most crazy of artwork and the most crazy of storytelling, and this is no exception to that. This is a letter from a man who is talking to his therapist, I guess I should say, about the conditions that led. I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm trying to not show that. Okay. The conditions that led him down the path that turned him into the person that he is now. And that person is somebody who is in an asylum because of murderous tendencies that he has. And he is very he just wants everybody to be happy and gleeful. And he doesn't know how to make them achieve that status. But he's going to try really hard to do so. And this is dark, and it's creepy, and it's insane, and it's very well done to be all of those things. And I'm just going to show you one more like really scattered page, because everything after that, because it is a one-shot, it's just too much of the story. But if you like dark, crazy horror stories, you're probably going to really enjoy this book. And honestly, I think this is the only copy I have left of this book already. So check it out. It's the dark book of the week that I think you should read if you are into horror. And the most happy-esque book that I could find for my picks of the week, I guess, out of the 4 that I had, is Barnstormers issue 2 from Dark Horse Comics. And this is, I should say, the Eisner Award-winning Barnstormers. This was originally released as a digital comic, and now it is in print. So each issue is actually 2 issues in one, because it was, not released issue to issue style as this digital comic. So they're able to put 2 issues, call it one. This is fantastic. If you are a fan of The Rocketeer, or that 1940s beautiful love stories and adventure stories, this is a perfect book in that capacity. This is all about a man. I'm not going to say young man. Everybody feels young in these like romance stories, but this is about a man who decides that he wants to be a barnstormer. And so basically he wants to go from town to town performing feats of acrobatic skill in an airplane to impress people for money. And while he is in issue 1, one of his very first ones where he's trying to do that, he storms through a wedding and ends up destroying it. And it turns out that the woman who is currently in that wedding has no desire to be getting married to the man that she's marrying. She's being forced into it to save her family. And so she decides she is going to run away with this barnstormer, and they are going to go on adventures of their own. And now we are experiencing those adventures. Meanwhile, the man who was supposed to marry her is absolutely furious, and he is determined to come after her. And we know from the very first page of issue 1 that this is the story of murder and death and betrayal and love and all kinds of beautiful things that he told us on that very first page. And so it's going to be a tragic story, but it's going to be a beautiful story along the way. Tula LaToya's art just fits this time period so perfectly. And Scott Snyder's writing is the masterclass that it always is. It's so great. It's so wonderful. I love this beautiful story. I love everything about it. And you see, I'm going to show you this. You get your page break between issues. So you know for sure you're getting 2 full issues in the story. Absolutely stunning storytelling and art. And again, if you're fans of The Rocketeer and you wish that Betty wasn't so mean to him, this is great, because this woman is like, I love you and I will like do anything for you kind of character. And there is this whirlwind romance, but we know that there's tragedy to follow, and we only have 1 more issue, so it is obviously coming very, very soon. Please read Barnstormers. It's fantastic. I love it. I love it so much. There's a reason it won an Eisner Award, and if it could win an Eisner for Best Digital Comic and then win an Eisner for like Best Miniseries, for being in print, I wouldn't be mad about it because I love it that much. All right, we got some books in stock this week. We have Spider-Man Annual number 1. This is part of your Contest of Chaos, which is the big Scarlet Witch event that is going on right now. that's what you need to know about this. It's not really going to connect to Spider-Man story from Dan Slott at all. It is going to be completely a part of that, and I am going to show you. There is a checklist at the back, so you know all of the annuals that you need to get. But basically, if there is a Marvel annual coming out in the next month, it is a part of this Contest of Chaos. Night Terrors came back this week, of course, with the Night Terrors proper. This is issue 3 of 4 of Night Terrors proper. Then we also had Zatanna wrapping up her Night Terror series, because each one is a duology. So Zatanna wrapped up her story part. The Flash wrapped up his. I know there was more. I'm trying to find all of them. I don't know. Green Lantern had one this week, I think. There it is. Green Lantern had one. Robin had one. It's a big week for Night Terror. Shazam had one. And we are quickly coming to the end, I should say, of Night Terrors. It's been a crazy event. If you didn't read it, check it out. It's going to be one of those events I think that they're talking about for a long time. I know a lot of readers have been like, I hope they animate this someday, because it would be a perfect DC animated movie. Star Wars issue 37 came out, and we are celebrating the 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars cartoon, which is insane. I feel so old. We had Max Rebo got a one-shot as a part of those Return of the Jedi comics. This is the guy in the band, Jabba the Hutt's band. So this takes place, you said this takes place during when Luke is coming to, or late. The whole thing, the whole Return of the Jedi story.
In Jabba's Palace.
In Jabba's Palace. Okay. Matt read that this week. Is very excited that Max Rebo got a book. Immortal X-Men issue 14. This is a part of your Fall of X storyline. Children of the Vault, issue 1. This is also part of your Fall of X. You need to be following along all those new titles and old. World's Finest Teen Titans, issue 2. We've got Superman's annual for this year, and I just love this really cool cover. But I know the Superman series, we are starting to come back towards those dawn of DC titles. So as Night Terrors comes to an end, more and more of those dawn of DC titles will start to roll back out. Gunslinger Spawn issue 23. We've got Amazing Spider-Man issue 31. This is your first appearance / first cameo. We'll see where that lands, of Mary Jane as her new character Jackpot. So make sure you grab that if you didn't. Silk issue 3. And this is the icon variant showing off how cool Silk is. We've got Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance issue 1. And this is also a part of your big, this is its own event, Ghost Rider Wolverine. You're going to have this one, and then Ghost Rider 17, and then Wolverine 36, and then there's an Omega issue, because this is your alpha, but it does connect to some of those big Marvel events happening right now as well. Multiversity hardly screws up the DCU, issue 6. Harley Quinn always messing up everything. In the best possible way. Guardians of the Galaxy issue 5. Love that. Love those crazy covers Guardians has had. Danger Street issue 8 from Tom King. If you are a fan of Lady Cop, you definitely need to be reading Danger Street. Captain Marvel Dark Tempest issue 2. Look at the world's cutest cover. This was honestly my favorite cover of the week, just because Chewie looks so cute, and I want to see if I can convince Bad City Shopcat Pumpkin to recreate an adorable moment like this with me. We've got Avengers issue 4, and this is the new Jed MacKay Avengers, and they are cranking this out as that part of that 60th anniversary of the Avengers. And we've got, I think this might be the only one I have left, so you can show it off. There is a John Romita corner box homage going through on a lot of, it is on the next one too, on a lot of the titles that if John Romita ever worked on it, he's got an homage on there. And then there is in memoriam for John Romita in those books as well, telling us about, all of the great and wonderful things that he did for Marvel Comics. Red Goblin issue 7 out this week. I am so surprised. I'm always like, wow, Red Goblin is still going. Like, it's doing great. Star Trek The Motion Pictures Echoes issue 4. Spirit World issue 4 as well, as part of the Dawn of DC. This one did not go on hiatus because it doesn't have a tie-in to Night Terrors. Silk issue 4 out this week. I also feel like that one just comes out like every week. And then we got some trade paperbacks in stock. So we have out this week, we've got Damn Them All Volume 1 just in time for you to get that issue 7. This collects issues 1 through 6. Help you get caught up on that. We also have Plush. This is issues 1 through 6. If you are a fan of vinyl or plastic and you didn't read Plush, you definitely should. This is serial killing cannibalistic furries with a lot of heart, so check that one out. The Ambassadors Volume 1 issues 1 through 6 as a part of Mark Millar's new universe that is leading into big game. You're definitely going to need to know who these characters are as a part of that series, and honestly, this is, I think, one of my favorite things Mark Millar has ever done. Blue Beetle Graduation Day. This is that whole mini-series that just recently came out for Blue Beetle. Great way to get excited for the new Blue Beetle movie because this is a Jaime Reyes series. There is also Spanish versions of those comics, so you can read that. And then books in stock that had new issues out this week that you should check out. This is Volume 1 of Kaya. If you want to get that story about that young girl trying to protect her brother and all of the magic that is in their world, check that out. And then, of course, you can get House of Slaughter Volume 1 as well as all 6 volumes or more of Something That's Killing the Children. And I believe Volume 2 of House of Slaughter may be out or about to be out if it's not already. So if you are looking to catch up on that Something That's Killing the Children universe, also shout out to Chris Sheehan for this awesome cover that has now already been homaged by like 3 different books. So way to go, Chris. Always proud of them. And then here it is. Matt took it out of the box. Oh my God, I've never seen it out of the box, so I might cry all over again. But this is that Catwoman statue that Tom King got us. That's the best way to turn this. Yeah. This was my wedding dress. I am so excited. Our anniversary is in 2 days, so it's perfectly timed. I'm going to turn her around so you can see the back of this amazing, incredible dress. Hey, I didn't even realize her nails were red. I painted my nails red on that day. What other color do you do when you have a black and white dress? But this is incredible. So much. Do you want to see the side? Look at that. Because the side of the dress was one of the coolest parts about it. Like, it's... if you haven't read the Batman story, Catwoman actually leaves Bruce in the middle of the night and goes out and tries on wedding dresses that she in a store that she breaks into until she finds the best one for her. And it's absolutely stunning of a dress. And I believe Joelle Jones worked with Vera Wang on the dress.
If you lift her off, it has a Joelle signature.
Like on the base?
It's 2 pins. Yeah, it's 2 pins.
I don't want to do it. Okay. Oh. Yeah, Joelle Jones' signature on the base. It's absolutely stunning. I'm trying really hard not to cry. Thank you again to Tom King for sending this to us, and for all of your incredible, wonderful words. It was already a whirlwind, wonderful experience to be at San Diego Comic-Con for the Eisners, but to have Tom provide this, I feel like I should hold it like a trophy and be like, I'd like to thank Tom King for this moment. But seriously, thank you for a great Batman story. Thank you for a great development of Catwoman and Batman, and thank you to Joelle Jones for this beautiful dress. It made my wedding day amazing and wonderful, and to have this as our anniversary comes up this week is and celebrate that with it is just absolutely amazing and incredible. So thank you, Tom. You're awesome and we love you, and again, congratulations on your Eisner this year. It's been an awesome week of comics. It always is. This week coming up at Bat City, we've got not July, we're in August 19th, at 4:30, we are going to be out at the Bradenton Bombers roller derby. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited to be at this bout. If you buy your tickets through our link that's in our event on our Facebook page, you will actually be helping Bat City raise some funds. We will also be doing a raffle that night at the event, so you can come and participate in that to win some awesome prizes. And again, those proceeds go to Bat City. So really looking forward to being a part of that, and shout out to the Bradenton Bombers for inviting us. We hope to see everybody there. If you've never been to a roller derby bout, this is the one to go to, because it's going to be a blast and we're going to be there. So come hang out with us and watch some great roller derby Saturday night at 4:30. Lots of cool things coming up the rest of the month. Check our event calendar on our Facebook to find out what they are, as well as stopping in the store and picking up some great books. Wherever you buy your comics, I hope you check out some small press and indie comics this week. There's so many amazing ones. We hope you enjoy them all. And, you know, read some Tom King, because that guy's awesome. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week and happy reading. Bye.